Hello everyone, I'm Naya Swami Asha, and it's my great pleasure to be addressing you on the subject of outreach. Outreach meaning outreach from the heart of every individual who is committed to Master and engaged in Ananda, to reach out from one's own life experience, to try to bring the same blessings to others that we ourselves have received. Every week in the Festival of Light we say, when we invite people up to receive the touch of light, pray also for the grace to share with others as you have received, for you are a part of all that is. It's notable in that prayer, which comes every single week before we receive the light, as part of the grace of receiving the light is that we become instruments of the light. We often use the word outreach when we're talking about promoting Ananda, promoting the communities, promoting the teachings we're dedicated to. And it's always a little bit of an awkward word for me, because outreach from where? Too often the mind takes that as geographical. And once we take it as a certain geography being the center, then there becomes this thought of a certain place being more important than other places, or all kinds of different ideas that are not necessarily actually inaccurate, but are not necessarily the most dynamic and expansive way to think about things. I know that when we first started our center in Los Angeles, people would refer to being down here. And after a while I began to ask, down here in relationship to what? The people who live in Los Angeles are not down from anything. They're just in Los Angeles. That's where they live. And the mindset was that we're down here from Ananda Village, as if Ananda Village were the definition and everything would be measured around it. Swami Kriyananda passed less than 6 months ago and went into the infinite, and I was observing in myself that his presence was indeed the geographical center, and measuring myself as a distance from north, south, east, or west, whatever it might have been, I think, had a spiritual validity. There's a certain sentimental, deeply sentimental, I'll advance it from sentiment to say feeling-oriented, for those of us who, for example, began our spiritual life at Ananda Village, that Ananda Village is, I call it my childhood home. When I say that to people, they try to do the math and figure that I have not aged gracefully. I must be, much younger than I appear to be. But it was my spiritual childhood, and I don't mean that in any disparaging way. I was raised at Ananda Village spiritually. And it is my childhood home. It's my father's home. It's Swamiji's home and my spiritual father in that sense. So in that respect, I do offer enormous respect and gratitude, infinite gratitude, to Ananda Village as a place, because it nurtured me. But when we're thinking in terms of sharing these teachings, it's very important that we pick it up by the right string. And the right string is the personal inspiration that we feel in our relationship with God and gurus, the personal inspiration we feel in our commitment to Ananda. I'm not in any way saying, from what I'm saying, that Ananda itself plays even a minor role. I mean, I don't want to say it plays only a minor role. I mean, Master, Swami, Ananda, it's all one reality, and it is the substance of our spiritual life. We just need to understand, for the sake of being able to reach others in the right way, sort of what that substance is, so that we are not blinded by our own experience when we're trying to take that experience and share with others. We need to know what it is we've actually been given, and therefore be able to draw appropriately from what we've been given in order to help others also awaken. May thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. That's what we're looking to do. And at the same time, we deeply believe in the particular expression that divinity has taken in our lives. And we believe in it not only for ourselves, but as an ideal. So what we're looking for when we're going out from our homes, out from our communities, out from our meditation room, to share this teaching with others, is that we can and should be wholeheartedly committed to the reality to which we have given our lives. It does not strengthen our magnetism to act as if, well, yeah, we go to Ananda and you can go here and you can go there. I've often said to people, I would recommend to you any number of ashrams and communities if they existed. I said, I have to recommend go to the Expanding Light, go to live at Ananda Village or one of its branches, because I don't know anywhere on the planet where anything like this exists. And so I can become quite an advocate for the path I'm following, but not out of a dogmatic or narrow-minded commitment to it, but just out of the understanding. And I can say with truth, which some of you can say, others will have to grow into it. I've traveled a great deal in the world. I've been to a lot of places. I haven't by any means made a systematic study of all ashrams, but I know enough to know that it's unique. I wish it weren't. I wish it were as common as every street corner, but it isn't. And therefore, we need to understand in principle what we're doing so we can speak of it in principle, but then also advocate for it in a non-dogmatic way, but with the enthusiasm of wanting to awaken thy love in all hearts and knowing that immersion into the Ananda vibration will have a profound and changing effect on people. What I often say to people is when they're talking to me, I don't know what path I should follow. I'm trying hard to follow a spiritual path, and I find that I can't really hold to this practice or that, or I don't know where I belong, what my purpose is. I'm torn between this alternative and that alternative. My often explanation, which I draw from my own experience, but it's a principle also. When I actually first came to Ananda myself, I had been deeply devoted to Ramakrishna, and I felt like Ramakrishna had really helped me. I never took initiation. I never really embraced any formal practices in relationship to him. I think I didn't because my heart didn't guide me to, but my actual, at the time, was just that it didn't occur to me to do so. I just wasn't organized enough in my spiritual life. But I was deeply connected to Ramakrishna. And he really took care of me, and I knew that he was taking care of me. That was a solid commitment. And then I met Swami Kriyananda, and the magnetism of that reality was so profound that it immediately transcended everything else. And I followed that with great determination and commitment to Ananda Village, while still having this thought of Ramakrishna and my relationship and my gratitude to him also in my mind. And I really didn't know how to resolve it. So I had this deep commitment to Ramakrishna, which I felt was deep and sincere. And the only reason I couldn't discern what the reality of the two of them was that I didn't have the intuition to know. And I just decided, it's quite another discussion, sort of how I worked with that within myself. But the point was, by coming to Ananda Village, the atmosphere at Ananda Village is extremely clarifying. And therefore, in that atmosphere, I was able to develop a much clearer sense of myself. And when I had a clearer sense of myself, then I intuitively knew what to do, which by the evidence you can see was to commit myself to Ananda without hesitation after that. So often when I'm working with people, I say to them, you know, it doesn't really matter what your path is or whether you belong or not. The atmosphere of Ananda is inherently clarifying. And if you go into a clarifying atmosphere, then your own intuition will guide you and tell you what to do. Now, all of that is describing in somewhat specific terms what I mean by outreach. We reach out from the center of our own relationship with God, and we help and invite people to benefit from what we have learned, to help them also to awaken divine love in their own hearts. Now, when we think of it like this also, it's very important to understand that it distresses me to see people get too much involved in the externals of how you share that. I often remind people the first voyage, the first lecture tour that I undertook was, it must have been somewhere in the mid to the late 70s. I and 4 singers went out together. We borrowed Swami Kriyananda's car, which at that time was Air Force One, this big blue Chevrolet. We had so few cars, he loaned us his car. We set up a little tour up the West Coast. I know we went as far as Mount Shasta. I think we went up into Oregon. I think actually even up into Washington. I don't think we went as far as Seattle. I believe we were gone about 3 weeks. I must have set it up myself because I'm the one who does that sort of thing, did that sort of thing at the time. I called realities that may not exist now, but there's others that substitute. Little bookstores, little meditation groups. Ananda didn't have very much, although we had a few centers and a few people. We just set up this little tour. We went from place to place. We arranged to sleep in people's houses. And when we set out on that trip, I went to Seva, who was then in charge of the finances of the community. I said, 5 of us are going out for 3 weeks. I said, could you give us some money? She gave me $50. I said, Seva, 5 of us are driving out for 3 weeks. She said, I can't afford to give you more than $50. And it wasn't as if we had any private money at all, and we had no credit cards, you should understand. Nobody would give us credit cards in those days. It was years later when David managed actually to finally get a credit card that was an incredible coup, and it had a limit of $750, which was just thrilling to us at the time because our incomes were just so far into the charts. You know, everything was different 30 years ago than it is now. But we had no backup on that. But it was just such a lark. And we said, okay, and we set out, and every city that we went to, every little group that we talked to, we told them frankly that we had left home with $50 and that we were on the road for 3 weeks. And whether they considered it positive or negative, if they didn't donate something for us to fill the car with gas and go forward, we weren't going to be able to leave. And it was just very lighthearted and happy, and everybody helped us, and we made it all the way there and back. And you know, we went to grocery stores. We never went to restaurants, hardly ever. We just ate at picnic tables and shopped in the grocery stores and slept on people's floors. And it was so much fun. And when we were setting out, we sort of, like Ananda is, we didn't have much time to plan ahead of time. We just piled in the car. We must have had a roof rack. We filled the roof rack with books to sell. And we sort of drove a couple of hours and then stopped somewhere to have lunch at picnic tables. And I said to the singers, how many songs do you know? They knew about 4 songs. It was Durga, Agni, Nalini, and Sahadev. The 4 of them, you know, bass, tenor, soprano, and alto. And they knew about 4 songs. And I looked at them and I said, good heavens, you're no more qualified or prepared to go on this tour than I am. And it was kind of an Om Swaha. What did we have to lose? We were so close to the ground. If we failed, it wouldn't hurt even at all to fall those couple of inches. But what we took out was just the absolute joy of loving God, loving each other, loving the teachings, being thrilled what we had at Ananda, and ever new joy. We just shared our ever new joy. I don't think we shared it very competently, but we shared it with our whole hearts. And really many, many, many good things came from that tour, not the least of which was our own experience of it. Whenever, for years and years, whenever the 4 of us would ever be together, or any 2 or 3 of us, we would remember that trip and we would laugh at all the really silly things that happened, and we had such a great time. And everybody could feel that. And it really also taught me, that trip, we're fish swimming in water. We have no idea what we have, even when we had so little. The community was barely there. I mean, it was already perhaps even 8 or 10 years old, so perhaps I underestimated. It had already burned down. I wish I could remember when that tour was. Maybe it was even before the fire. I don't actually recall. But, you know, the community was barely there compared to what we have. We were barely competent to present it, but we loved it with our whole hearts. And sincerity is everything. And when we went out into the world carrying that spirit of Master, you realize how hungry people are for that spirit. And the most important thing, really, when you're sharing what we have, is just that you love it and feel confident in it. And that you don't try to be or say something that you're not. When people would ask me questions that, even to this day, that I don't understand, that I can't answer, I just say, well, I just don't know the answer to that. And I'll try to find out for you. And I would try to find out. I would call Jyotish or Prakash, or if I had the chance to ask Swamiji, or just whoever I thought might know the answer, I'd try to find it. And if I didn't, I just wouldn't. I would just say what I did know. Haridas was famous for that. Once we were in Los Angeles and Swamiji was there, and Haridas went looking to try to get Swamiji on a local television show to speak. And the producers of the show said, well, we're very interested in what you present, but we don't know this Swami Kriyananda person, but we really like you. And Haridas was very new on the path and quite dismayed at the idea, but they insisted. So when he asked Swamiji what he should do, well, Swami said, of course you should go on the television program. Why not? So when Haridas was on, they pointed to his astrological bangle on the television show and asked him about it. And in the moment, he couldn't think of any explanation about the astrological forces and the planets and the chakras and all the different things that you could say. And he answered with complete honesty and absolute endearing sincerity. And I can't remember the exact beginning of his words, but it was something to the effect, you know, there's many esoteric explanations for this. He said, but what it means to me is every time I look at it, it reminds me of the commitment that I've made with my life, and it encourages me to hold fast to that commitment. Perfect answer. Really far more effective in many ways than something that you read in a book. When I am talking to people about traveling and reaching out to people, I always say, just stand in what you know. You know, we get this idea in our minds, oh, we're going on a lecture tour, oh, we're going to speak in front of groups, oh, we have to have the music just exactly so. If we don't have this right or that right, we can't go. And then everybody stays home and tries to get ready. But it's a little bit like I was saying at the beginning. Your intuition doesn't clear until you do it. Energy has its own intelligence, and I'm glad that people want to be conscientious, but I think it's far better to get in motion than to be over-conscientious and worry. Take who you are. Take what you know. And if you only know a little, then take all of that. And the way I put it to people, even when you're giving Sunday services, I said, if somebody came up and asked you a question, you know, how do you pray effectively? How do you know that God loves you? What do you do when difficult times come to you? I feel very sad about this experience of my life. What do you suggest to me? There's not one among us who wouldn't have an answer. We wouldn't say, oh, okay, I'll go home and I'll listen to Swami on the subject and I'll study Master and I'll take notes from these 8 books and I'll go on the minister's bookshelf and then I'll meet you here tomorrow and then I'll read you all my notes. We would look heart to heart, soul to soul, and we would answer. And when you're doing outreach, when you're on a lecture tour, when you're in front of a college class, when you're standing in front of a unity church of 1,000 people, it's not any different. It's, as Purushottama put it really well, he said, you're talking about something you know, and I would add, and something you love, to people you like. And let's just do it. If somebody asks you a question, you just answer sincerely. If you're outside of what you know, then stop talking and back up till you're talking about something you do know. But there's always something that we do know. And one of the things that happens when we reach out from the heart of our own devotion to God and try to awaken that love in other hearts, we realize, oh, we are so graced. We know so much. Even a little bit of this teaching, even a tiny bit of this teaching, just the little bit that we know is so much. And it behooves us to share it. We have an obligation as disciples. We have an obligation to ourselves because the channel is blessed by that which flows through it. It's every week in that ritual. Before we accept the blessing, we pray also for the grace to share with all. Why would Swamiji put that there? Because that's how we forget ourselves. That's how we build our own faith. I feel that I'm extremely blessed in that my enthusiasm for this path after 40-some years, I was going to say, if anything is greater than it was the day I started, it's greater because I understand more deeply what I'm doing. But my commitment was wholehearted from the first day, and it's wholehearted at this point. It may be more sophisticated, but it's not more. I mean, it's not less. And so many people, I hear them say things that, honestly, it absolutely breaks my heart. Oh yes, when I first started, I was enthusiastic just like that. You know, I used to go to all the programs, but now I don't anymore. And it's not because they're deeper. It's because they've lost their enthusiasm for it. And one of the reasons I feel that by the grace of God, my enthusiasm is still there, is because right from the beginning, Well, it was my nature. Swami pushed me according to my own nature, but even if he hadn't pushed me, I would have seized it with both hands. Because it's the nature of a happy person to want to make everyone else as happy as they are. If we love these teachings, then we would want to share that love with everyone. So I guess what I'm saying to you is worry less about the form and just grab whatever opportunities are there. And the opportunities will then teach you how to do it better. And you'll never know how to do it better until you start doing it. Oh, that worked, that didn't. And now let me give you a little bit of a criteria about what works. I never count how many people are in the room. I mean, sometimes if the group is small enough, after I come home, I can picture the room and I can go around the room and say how many were there. But I make it a policy, I never count who's in the room. Because I'm not doing this for the statistics of it. I'm not doing it so I can say I got 40 people, I got 50 people, I got 60 people. And, you know, it's nice maybe to have large numbers. But what really counts is when inspiration has been shared. And in fact, my whole definition of being a colony leader, from the beginning, I made a very simple definition to experience inspiration and to share that inspiration with others. And that's it. That for me is success. So if you set up a whole lecture tour and you reach a total of 15 people, it doesn't matter if each of those experiences have been an inspiring moment. The only condition I would put on that is it's not enough just to inspire yourself. It's good to inspire yourself, but you also have to have your eyes wide open. You have to be looking right into the eyes and the hearts of the people you're sharing, and you have to pray for the grace to share with all as you have received. There's a modern style these days that I've seen on videos and modern singers. Singers will come out and sit on a bench and sing whole songs without ever opening their eyes. I saw this woman, her publicity picture for herself as a singer was her eyes closed. I said to her, why are you pictured like that? And she sort of gave me some answer about her publicist, and I looked at the video of a friend who'd recorded a song, an acquaintance who'd recorded a song, the whole video. She never opened her eyes. It was a 7-minute song. Well, I'm sorry, that's not inspiring. The eyes are the window to the soul. The eyes are where the Spirit comes through us, and we must be giving with our eyes and giving with our hearts and giving with our whole being. Giving the love that Master has given to us. We're not loving people personally in the sense of, you know, you're so attractive, you're so beautiful, I'm so inspiring, I'm giving to you. But we're in a flow of energy that includes them. So often people will say to me after a Sunday service or something, we were just talking about that subject when we came and then you were talking about it. I say, where do you think the inspiration comes from? It comes from you. It's your spiritual questions. Divine Mother feels those questions, and then she just puts into my mind to say that. I don't know where they come from either. But it's putting ourselves into that relationship. I'm here, Master. Shivani used to have a wonderful prayer. She would say to Master, I have no brain and you have no mouth. So if you're my brain, I'll be your mouth. And that's how we have to work with it. Here I am, Master. Maybe somebody else would be better at this than I am, but they're not here. I'm the only one here. So ever new joy, always in fashion. Let's just all be together and share Master's love. That's what our life is about. May thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion. And then organize yourself, find places to go, but don't sweat the small stuff, especially at the beginning. Just get moving. And where 2 or more are gathered together, be there in the midst of them. And with enthusiasm and joy and Master's vibration and a deep prayer in your heart. I've often joked when people will say, you know, about a class or something, I say, all the classes, all the services, everything that I've ever done in all these years, it's really actually been one theme and one marvelous demonstration of what I call the power of desperate prayer. Here I am, Lord. There they are. Help, 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 help. And He comes through. And He comes through because we live and breathe these teachings, far more than you may realize. You live and breathe it. Every one of you watching this, you live and breathe it. And if you live and breathe it, you can breathe it to somebody else. And they will receive from you, above all, your sincerity. And your sincerity is the most attractive and compelling element of everything that you offer, is just your sincere belief and your sincere commitment to these teachings. That's absolutely, really everything. And that's what we offer. Swamiji once, he was passing out compliments one day, and he wasn't complimenting me. And so I put myself in front of him, so he had to compliment me. He rarely complimented. I don't mean that he didn't support or he didn't appropriately appreciate, but he rarely complimented because the ego wants that kind of thing. So I put myself in front of him, and it would have been awkward for him to say nothing. So he said to me, "Asha, you're very sincere." And later on, I thought about that, and I came back and sort of jokingly said to him, but there was a bite to it from my side. I said, "Damning with faint praise," is what I said to him about what he'd said to me. And I took it as, I wasn't complaining. I was just figuring that that was the best he could say about me. And he was shocked. And he said, "Asha, sincerity is everything. Sincerity means that this is really who I am." And when one absorbs being a devotee, this is really who I am, sincerity is everything. And I think when we think in terms of going out from the center of our love for God and trying to awaken that center in all hearts, the only thing that matters is sincerity. We don't even have to be any good at this. We can be full of doubts. We can be lousy at every aspect of it. But if we're sincerely trying, and God has this marvelous way of putting the right people together. He just always puts the right people together. When Swamiji went on a nationwide tour after the fire in 1976, he went twice. He took 12 Ananda people with him, because, for many reasons, but one of them is that, Ananda is such a widely varied group of eccentrics, and all our yet unmet brothers and sisters are equally widely varied and eccentric. And therefore, each one of us is just going to go out and vibe exactly who we are, and then help those who are in tune with us. Everybody has this spiritual obligation in that sense. See, there was one more thought. I want to find it before I finish. Just give me a moment. Oddly, I can't find it at all. I think what I was wanting to say is that God can use all of us, and He will use all of us if we sincerely and deeply want to be used. And passing on what we have been given is the first law of abundance. And if grace is our goal and divine realization is our goal, then be as generous and as active and as expansive as you can possibly be. Oh, I know what I wanted to say now. I remember, it's very important. We are a very large spiritual family, and souls that belong to this family are awakening to their relationship to this family in their own time and in their own way. Or they're being born now, and they're just coming into awareness in their late teens or 20s because of their youth. They're just reaching the stage in life where they will find it. What we really have to understand is every time in any way we use our own energy to expand the circle, we're looking for our brothers and sisters. And that takes away all the concern about doing it well or not doing it well. We're just looking for our own brothers and sisters. If you received a letter that you suddenly realized you had a brother or a sister that you'd been separated from, and this was your very own, and you were getting to meet that person again, wouldn't you just be eager to meet them without any concern about anything except the great love you would share? That's what happens every time you step forward to talk about these teachings or leave home to share them or stand in front of a group. You're looking for your brothers and sisters. You're making a friendship. You're deepening a friendship that started. Our friendships in God. It's one of the greatest gifts this path has to offer us after our relationship with God and Guru, is our relationship with one another. And it is a constant celebration to find and meet those people and to unite with them in spirit, in whatever way our hearts and theirs can reach to and fulfill. God bless you.